undercapitalized. This institution has a total risk-based capital ratio of less than 6%, a Tier 1 risk-based capital ratio of less than 3%, or a leverage ratio of less than 3%. Significantly undercapitalized institutions are subject to the restrictions that automatically apply to undercapitalized banks and thrifts, as well as to other limitations that include mandatory prohibitions against the payment of bonuses and raises to senior executive officers without the regulator's prior approval. A number of other discretionary restrictions also may be imposed. And the last category, critically undercapitalized. This institution has a tangible equity to total assets ratio of 2% or less. Tangible equity is a newly defined term to be used only for determining which institutions are critically undercapitalized. Tangible equity combines elements of core capital, such as common equity capital, and cumulative perpetual preferred stock minus all intangible assets except for limited amounts of purchased mortgage servicing rights. Critically undercapitalized institutions are subject to the restrictions that apply to undercapitalized and significantly undercapitalized institutions, as well as to other prohibitions that the F.D.I.C has been given authority to enforce as the insurer of deposits. At a minimum, any critically undercapitalized institution, regardless of its primary federal regulator, must receive prior written approval from the F.D.I.C before it can take actions that include the following: engaging in any material transactions other than in the usual course of business, extending credit for highly leveraged transactions, or HLTs, amending its charter or bylaws, making any material changes in accounting methods, engaging in certain transactions with affiliates, paying excessive compensation or bonuses, or paying above-market interest rates on deposits. Under F.D.I.C.I.A., a critically undercapitalized institution generally is prevented from paying principal and interest on its subordinated debt and will be placed in conservatorship or receivership if its capital level is not increased within a prescribed time limit. The final rule, folks, also amends Part 308 of the F.D.I.C's regulations by establishing procedures for downgrading an institution to a lower category. For example, the restrictions for undercapitalized institutions may be applied to an institution that meets minimum capital requirements, but otherwise is in less than satisfactory condition, such as one that has significant asset quality problems. The final rule also includes procedures for issuing and contesting prompt corrective action directives. Such directives include those from the F.D.I.C requiring an institution to dismiss directors and senior executive officers. In other words, folks, what they have just said is that a bank that is initially categorized as well capitalized or adequately capitalized could be downgraded to critically undercapitalized if it falls into the last subgroup of A, B, or C. And those are the methods that the F.D.I.C, under the new rule, determines how much a bank or lending institution or S&L pays as their federal deposit insurance premium. And here is that rule. On September 15, 1992, the F.D.I.C Board of Directors also agreed on a system that will charge higher insurance rates to those banks and savings associations that pose greater risk to the deposit insurance funds. Attached is a copy of the final rule, and I'm going to read it to you right now, which goes into effect January the 1st, 1993. Now, this rule doesn't go into effect until January the 1st, 1993. Under the rule, a bank or thrift will pay within a range of 23 cents per $100 of domestic deposits, that's the current rate for all institutions now, to 31 cents per $100 of domestic deposits, depending on its risk classification. The F.D.I.C projects that about 75% of the 12,000 insured commercial banks and savings banks with 51% of the deposit base and 60% of the 2,300 insured thrifts with approximately 43% of the deposit base will be in the lowest rate-paying group. Only about 220 banks, or 2% of all insured commercial and savings banks, and 160 thrifts, 7% of all insured thrifts, are expected to be in the group paying the highest insurance rate. The F.D.I.C. estimates that banks will pay an average rate of about 25.4 cents per $100 compared to 25.9 cents per $100 for thrifts. The F.D.I.C. intends to notify each institution of its premium rate by December 1st. This is an admission, folks, that there are 220 banks that are so undercapitalized that they are in the highest risk category and will pay the highest insurance premium for their F.D.I.C. coverage, and 160 thrifts. So that's 380 financial institutions right off the bat that we know by the admission of the F.D.I.C. in their own memo. I'm reading from an F.D.I.C. memo, folks, that was sent to the Chief Executive Officer on October the 7th, 1992. By their own admission, 380 financial institutions are in such trouble that they will have to pay the highest premium rate for their F.D.I.C. coverage, which means, according to the rule that I read to you first, that they are subject to conservatorship or receivership, which, folks, means bankruptcy. And these are just the worst. Remember, there are 5 categories, folks: well-capitalized, adequately capitalized, undercapitalized, significantly undercapitalized, and critically undercapitalized. Any bank which falls under undercapitalized, significantly undercapitalized, and critically undercapitalized, which fall into the last subgroup of the ABC, you remember that, are subject to receivership. Are subject, folks, to receivership, bankruptcy, or to be sold or combined with another bank to try to save it. Now, anything insignificantly undercapitalized and critically undercapitalized, no matter which subgroup they fall into, are subject to receivership. And, as the rule itself says, even if it falls under well-capitalized or adequately capitalized and falls into the last subgroup, or the C category, could be downgraded to any one of the lower classifications. So what does this mean? Well, let me tell you. As of February of 1992, these banks fell into the critically undercapitalized category. These banks, as of February 1992. I'm going to read you the name of the bank. Citibank of North America, New York. It's 0.31 discounted tangible equity to assets. 0.31. Bank of America, NT and SA, San Francisco, California. 1.91 discounted tangible equity to assets. These are percentages, folks. Chase Manhattan Bank, New York, minus 0.2%. Chemical Bank, New York, minus 0.39%. Marine Midland Bank, Buffalo, New York, 0.34%. National Westminster Bank, USA, New York, 1.62%. Remember, the rule says that any bank that falls below 2%. Some of these banks are as low as minus 8% in discounted tangible equity to assets. Mid-Atlantic NB, Newark, New Jersey, minus 1.89%. Bank of Tokyo, TC, New York, 1.35%. Bank of California, N.A., San Francisco, 1.09%. IBJ Schroeder, Bank and Trust Corporation of New York, 1.44%. National Westminster Bank, New Jersey, 1.13%. People's Bank, Bridgeport, Connecticut, minus 0.32%. First City, Texas, Houston, minus 0.53%. American Security Bank, N.A., Washington, D.C., minus 1.7%. Apple Bank for Savings, Garden City, New York, minus 0.20. Dollar Dry Dock Bank, Bronx, New York, minus 7.68%. Howard Savings Bank, minus 0.687%. Union Trust Corporation, Stamford, Connecticut, minus 1.18%. American Savings Bank, White Plains, New York, minus 8.36%. Bank of Baltimore, Baltimore, Maryland, minus 0.05%. Equibank, Greensburg, Pennsylvania, 0.89%. First American Bank of Virginia, 1.71%. National State Bank, Elizabeth, in Elizabeth, New Jersey, minus 2.04%. Greater New York Savings Bank, Brooklyn, New York, minus 2.77%. Bank LEUMITC of New York, New York, New York, minus 7.67%. River Bank America, New York, New York, minus 7.8%. Citizens First NB of New Jersey, Ridgewood, New Jersey, minus 0.68%. Citibank, Phoenix, Arizona, 1.77%. People's Heritage Savings Bank, Portland, Maine, 0.74%. First Constitution Bank, New Haven, Connecticut, minus 0.91%. Merchants Bank of Kansas City, Missouri, minus 0.13%. Northside Saving Bank of New York, New York, 1.76%. First NH Bank, Concord, New Hampshire, that's the First New Hampshire Bank, Concord, New Hampshire, 1.32%. Bay Bank, Harvard Trust Corporation, Cambridge, Massachusetts, 1.28%. Heritage Bank for Savings, Holyoke, Massachusetts, minus 2.93%. New England Savings Bank, New London, Connecticut, minus 3.81%. Springfield Institute for Savings, Springfield, Massachusetts, 1.93%. Now, folks, what I'm telling you here is these banks are in deep trouble and are certain to either be combined with another bank to try to save it or to go right into receivership and disappear into the realms of that never land called bankruptcy. Bankruptcy. This, folks, is serious. These are just the worst. Just the worst. This isn't all of the banks that are in trouble. Just the very worst that we've been able to identify as of February 1992. How many of you knew that there are fraudulent or renegade banks operating in this country? Banks that aren't banks, that aren't covered by anything, and you've got your money in them. Well, there are too many of those to list or to name on this program. There are fraudulent banks in the USA, fraudulent Canadian banks, fraudulent Caribbean banks. It's incredible. Those will all be listed in the next edition of the CAGI newsletter. Those of you who aren't getting it, you need to join CAGI. $45. $45 is your membership fee. Folks, you get a lot of other benefits. You can call Stan Barrington and ask him to tell you what they are over the phone. Or you can write, he'll send you a package of information and you can see what the benefits of joining CAGI are. But if you'd like to join, or if you'd like to send for a packet of information, send $45 or send your request to William Cooper, P.O. Box 3299, Camp Verde, Arizona, 86322. That's William Cooper, P.O. Box 3299, Camp Verde, Arizona, 86322. I'll give you that address again later in the program. If you want to call Stan, it's 602-567-6109. That's 602-567-6109. Remember, don't listen to this program without a pencil and paper by your side. It's time to take a little break, folks, so don't go away. Don't change your dial. We will be back after this brief pause. Well, there you have it. Folks, remember, I predicted that all of the things that are happening would happen, and I predicted these years ago. In fact, I named the exact month that this current They call it a recession, but